Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects every single one of us, every single day: inflation. You hear the word thrown around on the news, you see it in headlines, but what does it actually mean for your wallet? And more importantly, how can you track it to make smarter financial decisions? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll be able to see the economy through a whole new lens. So, what exactly is inflation? In the simplest terms, it's the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and subsequently, the purchasing power of currency is falling. Think about it this way: the $10 you have today might not buy you the same amount of stuff a year from now. That's inflation at work. It's like a slow, silent leak in your financial boat. If you don't pay attention to it, you might find yourself with less buying power than you thought, even if the number in your bank account stays the same. Why should you care? Because inflation is the invisible hand that shapes your financial reality. It influences everything from the cost of your morning coffee to the price of your dream home. It affects the interest rates on your savings accounts and your loans. High inflation can erode your savings, making it harder to reach long-term goals like retirement. On the other hand, understanding its trends can give you a massive advantage. It helps you decide when to buy big-ticket items, how to invest your money, and even when to ask for that pay raise you deserve. Ignoring inflation is like trying to navigate a ship without a compass. You might stay afloat for a while, but you have no idea where you're really heading. So, how do we measure this invisible force? The most common tool governments and economists use is the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. Imagine a giant, virtual shopping basket filled with thousands of items that the average household buys. Things like groceries, gasoline, clothing, housing costs, and even haircuts. The CPI tracks the total cost of this basket over time. When the cost of the basket goes up, that's inflation. When it goes down, which is rare, that's called deflation. The percentage change in the CPI from one year to the next gives us the annual inflation rate. This is the number you often hear reported in the news. For example, if the CPI was 100 last year and it's 103 this year, the inflation rate is 3%. Now, the CPI is a great overall indicator, but it's an average. Your personal inflation rate might be different. If you don't own a car, a big jump in gas prices won't affect you as much. If you're a vegetarian, changes in meat prices are irrelevant to your budget. That's why it's so useful to look at different components of the CPI. Most government statistics websites, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, break down the data. You can see the inflation rate specifically for food, for energy, for housing, and so on. This detailed view gives you a much clearer picture of where price pressures are coming from and how they specifically impact your lifestyle. Let's make this practical. Where can you find this information? It's more accessible than you think. The primary source is usually the official statistics agency of your government. In the United States, it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS. In the UK, it's the Office for National Statistics. In Canada, it's Statistics Canada. These websites publish monthly CPI reports, and they're completely free to access. They often have user-friendly charts and data visualization tools that make it easy to see the trends. You can look at the overall headline inflation, or you can dig into core inflation, which excludes volatile items like food and energy to give a better sense of the underlying trend. Beyond government sites, major financial news outlets like Bloomberg, Reuters, and the Wall Street Journal provide excellent analysis and context around these numbers. They often have dedicated sections for economic data. Central bank websites, like the Federal Reserve in the US or the European Central Bank, are also treasure troves of information. They not only publish data, but also release reports and forecasts that explain their view on inflation and what they plan to do about it. Following these sources will keep you ahead of the curve. Okay, you found the data. Now what? How do you turn these numbers into actionable insights? First, look at the trend, not just a single month's number. Is inflation accelerating, slowing down, or staying steady? An accelerating trend might signal that you should lock in fixed rates on loans or make large purchases sooner rather than later. A slowing trend might suggest it's a good time to invest in bonds, as interest rates might soon fall. Second, compare the inflation rate to your own income growth. Is your salary keeping up? If inflation is at 5%, but your annual raise was only 3%, you've effectively taken a 2% pay cut in terms of purchasing power. This is powerful information to bring to a salary negotiation. You can factually state that your real wage has decreased and use the official CPI data to back up your request for a higher raise just to maintain your standard of living. Third, use inflation data to guide your investment strategy. Historically, certain assets perform better during inflationary periods. Real estate, for example, can be a good hedge because rents and property values tend to rise with inflation. Commodities like gold and oil also tend to do well. On the other hand, holding too much cash is a losing game, as its value gets eaten away. Inflation-protected securities, like TIPS in the U.S., are bonds specifically designed to protect your investment from inflation. Understanding the inflation environment is crucial for building a resilient portfolio that grows your wealth in real, after inflation terms. Let's look at a real-world example. In the post-pandemic era, we saw a surge in inflation globally. Supply chain disruptions and high demand caused prices for many goods, especially used cars and electronics, to skyrocket. People who were tracking this data saw the trend early. Some might have decided to buy a car before prices went even higher. Others, seeing their savings lose value in the bank, might have moved their money into assets like stocks or real estate, which ultimately performed well during that period. On the flip side, those who didn't pay attention were caught by surprise when they found their weekly grocery bill was suddenly 20% higher and the car they wanted was thousands of dollars more expensive. This is a perfect illustration of how tracking inflation gives you a proactive, rather than reactive, approach to your finances. It empowers you to anticipate changes instead of just being hit by them. You start to understand the why behind price changes. You'll know why the central bank is raising interest rates, which makes your mortgage more expensive, and you'll understand that they're doing it to cool down the economy and bring inflation under control. This knowledge transforms you from a passive consumer into an informed economic participant. You're no longer just a spectator. You're a player who understands the rules of the game. So, let's recap the key steps. First, understand what inflation is, the decline of purchasing power over time. Second, know how it's measured, primarily through the Consumer Price Index (CPI). Third, find the data from reliable sources like government statistics agencies and major financial news outlets. And finally, use that data to analyze trends, compare it to your income, and make informed decisions about your spending, saving, and investing. It might seem a bit intimidating at first, but start small. Make it a monthly habit. When the new CPI report comes out, take just 15 minutes to look at the headline number and one or two categories that matter most to you, like food or housing. Over time, you'll build a deep, intuitive understanding of the economic forces shaping your world. You'll be able to connect the dots between a news headline and the price of milk in your local store. This skill is one of the most valuable you can develop for securing your financial future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this breakdown has demystified inflation and shown you how powerful tracking it can be. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future content on building your financial intelligence. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or if you already track inflation and how you use the data. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.